Icarus Uprising is a masterpiece, and no truer words have ever been spoken from myself. Because this game is amazing, and it is my favorite game.
And then we will decide when what we're to start.
The Kid Icarus franchise started back in 1986 when the first game released for the NES, and in 1991 there was a sequel, but nobody even knew about it. Hell, I didn't even know that there was a second game. I just knew there was the original game, which mostly was because they had mentioned it in Uprising, but they never even mentioned a sequel in Uprising. So that was mostly one of the reasons why I didn't even know that there was a second game. Although this game was released on the 3DS and back in 2012 and hasn't had a sequel in so long that the series is dead at this point, we still get characters popping in from the series in Smash Bros. And Nintendo hasn't even made an announcement where we will ever get a sequel to this game or not. Now, I first played Kid Icarus back in my 3DS back in 2012, and playing that game for the first time felt amazing. There are few other games that really blew my mind as to how good a game can actually be. And it was one of the first few games that solidified itself to me as one of the best games ever made and of all time. And a lot of that has to do with just how great everything is. From each character design, their voice acting, the gameplay, and my god, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so amazing. Hell, you can even play the soundtrack from Gallery on the 3DS in the trophy section. And I remember listening to that till my 3DS literally ran out of battery. And I still listen to the soundtrack to this day because it's just a godly soundtrack, dude. But what else solidifies this game as my favorite game of all time? Well, the characters. This game is filled to the brim with amazing characters and great voice acting to go along with it too. This is probably one of the few games where an English dub of a Japanese game is actually. The characters of this game are what really stands out of all of the other games I played over the years. Because with each character, you get a distinct personality that makes them all unique to pretty much all the other characters in the game. At least that's what I think so. You have Pit, our main character, who is this cheerful hero who's definitely, compared to other Nintendo characters, definitely stands out of all of them. Just because he's not silent. And he has a lot of personality to him, which most Nintendo characters wouldn't have, I'd say. But there are some main characters where they're, they have some personality that stands out from all of Nintendo characters. Next, you have Palutena, who is the goddess of this game who gives the power of flight to Pit, and basically a really funny character most of the time. You think just because she's a god, she'd like act like Zeus or something. Yet there's even an anime short where she's just doing random stuff that's just way too funny. I don't know why. It's just funny. Next, Marie, the lolly tsundere. That's it. She's just a tsundere. That's her personality. Next, we have Patu. I mean, the dark pit. Patu. Always gets me, man. I don't know why. Who is the opposite of Pit, and he's the exact opposite of Pit. Like Pit is like cheerful, happy all the time, and compared to Pit, Dark Pit is literally an emo version of Pit. But compared to that, Dark Pit it has a lot of character development throughout the story that shows how he is different to Pit in a lot of aspects. I won't be talking about that here, but we have other great characters in the game like Pandora, Medusa, Magnus, Pyron, and the one character voiced by Troy Baker who was really servant. I forgot his name, but I remember him because it's Troy Baker. I mean, how can you not remember that voice? But the best character in this game to me is Hades. I mean, every line he says in this game is just very. I don't know what the word to describe it. Awesome, badass, hilarious. Even more so than Pit, I'd say. I mean, Hades is just perfect in this game, dude. And a lot of that it is thanks to the excellent writing that the director Masahiro Sakurai put into this game. The story in this game is perfect, and I mean amazingly perfect. It has so many awesome moments from beginning to the end of the game. It has hilarious dialogue. It has so many perfect things going for it that it's even more perfect than it should be. And a lot of that is thanks to the writing in this game. Everything is just so perfect. But the best part about this game for me, honestly, it's Hades. I mean, he's honestly what makes the second half of the game more better than the first half. And what I mean by first half is that the first half of the game has you fighting against Medusa, and you get once you reach the ending of the first half of the game, you kind of think, wow, well that was okay, or all, right? But to me, the first ending was amazing. But when Hades came up and showed up out of nowhere, I wasn't expecting that. And once you reach the second half of the game, you literally fight aliens in outer space in a god and monster game. Like, this is a fantasy game, but there's aliens in it as well. Like, that is just awesome, dude. And once you reach the final chapter of the game, where you fight Hades, that was just an absolutely perfect battle. I mean, you use a freaking mecha, or basically a Gundam, to fight against basically a Titan. In this case, Hades is a Titan. I mean, who wouldn't love that, dude? And every battle in this game is perfect. The final boss battle, where you fight Hades, that final shot that Pit did at the end, that was just perfect. And the ending is amazing, dude. And it doesn't really leave open up to more sequels or anything, but it does end the game in a perfect way. Now, what I like most about this game is the freaking titles to every chapter. I have no idea why. I mean, the chapter names to this game is just, it's fun. It's not fun, but it's amazing titles. Like the Lunar Sanctum, the Ring of Chaos, and plenty more that have just as amazing titles, but those are just some of my favorites. I have no idea why. The core gameplay to this game is amazing, and it has so many variety to it that it can take you probably hours just to try out every weapon. This game is a bit different compared to other games, where you have two different parts to each chapter of the game that you play. You have the first section of each mission where you fly around and shoot everybody in the air, and you have the land section where you beat enemies like a third-person shooter. And this game can actually be both an FPS and third-person, because you can go to first-person mode, but I don't think anybody ever uses that just because it doesn't feel good to play in at all. Like, compared to the third-person gameplay, the first-person is trash compared to the third-person. Like, the first-person is just bad. It's not bad, but it's like, it just isn't as good as a third-person. Now, like a third-person shooter, you'd think that this game would need another joystick to move around your aim, but this game uses its stylus to aim and fight enemies. So if you have some OSU experience, it might be easier to aim around while playing this game. But the controls in this game, I don't like it that much, but mostly because I think the 3DS is way too small for my hands, and it's kind of hard to control Pit using the joystick. The joystick is kind of too small for me. I like a bigger joystick like the one on the Xbox or the PS4, but the controls are decent. I'd say they're pretty decent. I mean, compared to nowadays, it's still, well, it's not as good as controllers nowadays, but it's still good. Now, the combat to this game is freaking fun. Like, shooting enemies and attacking in this game feels amazing. And not only that, but like I said, there are so many weapons that it will take a long time to find a perfect weapon for your playstyle. There are so many playstyles you could take to this game. I mean, there are 9 types of weapons. You could be like Wolverine and fight with claws, fight with a hammer, fight with a sword blaster combination, I guess. But luckily, this game does have a practice range where you can try out every weapon. One of the things that this game has that probably most games, I think, don't have is a skill tree. I don't exactly know what to call it, but they're these things called powers, where you have a box and each power has a shape to it. And the shapes that you can fit inside the box gives you the powers. And you can add a variety of powers. You can add so many if you can fit all of it in just one box. And it gives you a lot of things. Now, this game's difficulty uses heart to put it to its difficulty. You can go easy as hell, using effortless, or the hardest difficulty. And it also uses heart as its currency for buying things. And this heart system would also later be used for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Masahiro Sakurai's latest game. This game, when you put it at the highest difficulty, it's freaking impossible to beat. I have no idea how many times I died on a freaking chapter where I just gave up. I mean, compared to this game to Bloodborne, I take Bloodborne over this game at the highest difficulty any day. I have no clue why. I can't play this game at the highest difficulty. It's just so hard. When I've played the final chapter of the game where you fight Hades at the hardest difficulty, I couldn't even beat like the first half of the mission. Literally, this game is so hard to me, and I have no idea why. It's just so hard. By the way, the thing that still surprises me most about this game is how is the multiplayer server to this game still alive? I mean, it's been 8 years since this game first released, and you'd think it'd be dead by this point. I mean, the Wii U shop has been closed like a year ago, and this game's servers are still up. Like, it blows my mind how this game's servers are still up. And the first match that I joined in, I think it was definitely a free for all. I literally got my ass beat by everyone in the match. This game is really hard if you haven't played it in such a long time. It is really hard. I could not get a single kill because of how hard this game can be, fighting against other people who are way better than you and probably have more experience than you at playing this game. That's just, I don't get it, but the multiplayer section of this game is still amazing. Kid Icarus is my favorite game of all time, and not just because of all the reasons I mentioned before. It's because it just feels like a game that was made with a lot of care and attention to it, that Masahiro Sakurai put into this game. Hell, what he did with this game wasn't amazing. He turned a platformer that nobody ever really knew about to one of the best games I've ever played. I have 67 hours in this game, and probably even more considering I'm thinking of replaying it again. I mean, compared to other games where I can't bring myself to replay them again, I would replay this game 100 times, just because it is that good. And if you do have a 3DS, yes, this game is worth it. It is very worth it. I want to see another Kid Icarus game, but knowing Nintendo, and we'll most likely not see another Kid Icarus game. And most of that is just because Masahiro Sakurai has stated that he won't ever make a sequel to Kid Icarus, or in any other games for that matter. But what I am hoping for is a port to the Switch maybe. I mean, hopefully playing that game at 720p would be better than playing it on a tiny 3DS screen, and probably would be easier to record footage for. The reason why I'm okay with Kid Icarus not getting a sequel is because this game was just a blast from beginning to end. And I don't think we'll ever get a sequel to this game, but hopefully we do. But if we don't, then I'm okay with it, because this game is amazing, and it's perfect, and it's my favorite game of all time. And I want to thank Nintendo and Masahiro Sakurai for the experience that this game gave me, and I hope that one day we see another Kid Icarus title. But until then, thank you. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video from beginning till the end, and this is the first time I'm ever making a video like this, so it's probably gonna be bad, but I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to. But I'm really sorry for all the background noises that you could hear in some parts of the videos. I don't know how to fix that yet, but I'll try to make it better in the next video probably. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. See ya.